Welcome back for another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast right here on So Bros Network. Mine's right, ass is tight. Spooky season is underway, and we are talking about one of our favorites for this time of year of all time. It's the Monster House pod on Movie Review Rewind. I'm Stoney Keeley. We got the resident film critic of So Bros Network, Brandon Vick, with us today. Stoked to dig into this movie. This kind of feels like an episode that is long overdue on this show. Monster House. What is it about this film that makes it so special to you?
It's the vibe. The whole vibe. The way it starts, it's fall in this little town, and there's this big creepy house across the street. I love it, but it starts with the vibe it gives off, and you really, it's the perfect season.
I think it's interesting because it is an animated movie. It is technically like a kid's movie, but there is a quality to Monster House, and we'll learn throughout the episode just how many things went right and how the stars aligned for this movie to be made the way that it was. But there is something about this movie that feels artful to me. And it's just the style of it goes beyond just a hokey kids movie. And for me, even when I saw this for the first time back in 2006, being, 20 years old at that point. That's technically a grown man, right? I was a grown man when this movie came out.
Yeah.
Even watching it then, that was the thing that I felt I appreciated as something that sets it apart from other Halloween time movies.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually pretty thoughtful in its themes of what it's trying to cover, just to be a family movie. I think there's some spooky elements to it.
Yeah.
Some scary stuff, especially dealing with this kind of wild, kind of haunted house interpretation. But, and I like the animation. It's not really done anymore, I don't think. Not the way that, not within the details that that this film is done in.
I mean, I can't really think of anything.
I can't either. And honestly, I liked it. Like, it doesn't have to be so realistic like the way like Pixar and some of them have done. The way that animation fits that movie and the atmosphere, it plays it. It's such a benefit to have that kind of atmosphere. And it doesn't matter in any movie, if they kind of get you with that atmosphere, and especially during this time of spooky season, it does wonders. So it had a lot going for it.
So if you're new here on the Movie Review Rewind podcast, I would remind you guys that there are heavy spoilers as we discuss these films. At this point, this movie's 18 years old. If you ain't seen it by now, I don't know what you're even doing here. Wow. But we are going to talk about spoilers in this, and I would give you all fair warning. If you don't want to hear spoilers, hit pause and come back later. But for those of you that might need a little refresher, Monster House is a 2006 American animated supernatural horror comedy film. Okay. Wow. Where's that genre?
Dang.
Yeah.
Where's that gone?
Directed by Gil Keenan in his directorial debut, with a screenplay by Dan Harmon, Rob Schrab, and Pamela Petler, from a story by Harmon and Schrab. The story follows a group of kids who discover and attempt to stop a sentient haunted house that consumes anything that comes near it. I'm not a horror buff, so I'm not going to pretend to have this deep pantheon of horror movies that I go to every year. I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff, but I remember this movie kind of being like, oh, it's a little tongue in cheek that now they're making the haunted house is like literally consuming children in this film.
Yeah.
It's not like something like you go in and you never come out. It's like, no, this thing's alive and it's eating people.
Yes.
And I always thought that was kind of a clever, fresh kind of take on this this animated Halloween genre, if you will.
Yeah, and the character Steve Buscemi plays, you think he's there to scare the kids, but he's not. He's there to save them.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting dynamic that, I don't know, I think the deeper you get into this film, I think the more heart it has.
Oh,
And
I totally agree.
it's pretty scary. And I pulled a quote from one of the producers when asked like what sets this film apart, and his quote was, "It's a little bit scarier, but it falls back on humor, and kids like that because it makes them feel safe in a story like that."
Oh God, not just kids, grown ass people.
Well, yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
37 years old, and they're still like, if I'm not paying attention to what's happening on Monster House and I look up at the right moment, I jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just little jump scares in there. People probably listen to this thinking like, these pussies. But I think like those things, like that idea, how carefully it was crafted into this film, it shows.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it
100%.
shows that level of thought and attention was put into this movie. And in the same fashion, I think you see that heart where this terrifying story, this terrifying premise lands in a place that highlights this very great and deep love.
Yeah.
And I think in a way it feels weird to say this about what is ultimately supposed to be like a children's movie.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes this movie so special too. And it's where I go back to, it's just a very artful film.
Well, and I feel like that's kind of where, like Guillermo del Toro, when he did Pinocchio and on Netflix, that animation isn't a genre. And I think for him, and I think Monster House is a great example, is it tells you about life. I think a lot of times these type of movies, everyone says, well, it's made for kids, but it shouldn't be. And the good ones aren't. They're made for everyone. And that's what Pixar really has kind of built their reputation on, is that it's not one you take the kids and the adults are bored or, oh, okay, I guess we just got through it. But there's ones that there is, like you said, there's an artfulness to it, and there's meaning behind it. It's not just a goofy kids thing. It's more than that. And all the animated movies should aspire to be something more than just filler for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I would agree. You mentioned Steve Buscemi, the cast for this film. If you stop and go back and look at it.
Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy. Steve Buscemi, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, Jason Lee, Fred Willard, John Heder, Catherine O'Hara, Kathleen Turner. And then you have the three kids, Mitchell Musso, Sam Lerner, and Spencer Locke. Throughout the years, I get so hung up in the style of this film that I forget just how many good actors are actually in this one. Gil Keenan actually put together a wish list of the actors that he wanted. It's like, I'm listening to, it was one of the producers talk about it. It's like, it never happens where you make down like perfect case. Everybody says, yes,
this is what I want.
This is what I want. And he jotted his list down and extended offers to everybody. And every one of them said yes. He got
there's no plan B. He got the plan A all the way.
Cast that he wanted. And I think that's another aspect of this film that works so well, where you have that attention to detail of like, who you want for every role, right. And then to actually get them.
That's a gift.
The stars are aligning for this film.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi, seeing the clips of him in like the motion capture suits with all the little like bulbs on him and everything is super weird. But he kind of cited this as an opportunity to kind of like challenge himself. Like you did actually get to see the actors. Like he was out there acting with them. And that was something that he mentioned. Hey, this is an animated movie, but we're actually out here acting. You're in a big metal box looking thing. You're not on a set or anything like that. Which has to be
so weird.
Which he said was kind of like weird, but it was also a challenge. And he kind of wanted the opportunity to do something like this. And it feels like you can look at it through that lens and say, yeah, that makes sense. I totally get why someone would want to do this. But what are your thoughts on the cast?
I thought they were great, especially Steve Buscemi and Kathleen Turner. I mean, those are pretty big names and are, talent, very talented people. But the kids did a great job. I mean, it is essentially a lot of the movie is told through their perspective. And it's about childhood. It's a little bit about coming of age. It's also kind of the fears that one has when you're young. And then there's other things like you were talking about. There's a lot of elements that I don't think just pertain to being a kid. I think there's a lot that even when you grow up, the thoughts of, of things not going right, or the things that might, be suspicious or spooky, you don't always just grow out of everything. I mean, that's not how it works. But I really liked, it makes me smile that they got literally everybody they wanted to.
I mean, how often does that happen? And we do all
Probably
these.
Not that often, but especially to get like, maybe you got one of the two main stars and the other one you had to, and sometimes it works out better. But the fact that you didn't even have to think of the, who was number two, that's it's pretty cool.
How many of these podcasts have we done with Stephen McCash where we sit down and say, well, this person was supposed to play that person, and it's kind of cool.
That fell through. That person was replaced. That person turned it down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to look through all of those scenarios, but ultimately, it feels like a pretty common thing that you're not going to get everybody that you want. And for a movie like Monster House.
Yes. Can you imagine this movie still being good without Kevin James?
Well, I did not even realize that was Kevin James.
I did, because I almost did the character like Kevin James.
It's an unmistakable voice now, but I don't think Kevin James was as ingrained into my brain in 2006.
I would say Nick Cannon either, to be honest.
Yeah, you're probably right. I would agree with that.
Maybe it's just Steve Buscemi. And Kathleen Turner, listen, you can't mistake that one.
Steve Buscemi was awesome, though.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And the way that his character looked and talked, I could almost see Steve Buscemi physically being that man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, it's funny how you mentioned it's Nebercracker, right? Nebercracker looking
I don't know what you called me, but yeah.
looking like Steve Buscemi, because I wanted to bring up a point from the production about how the characters were designed. And they actually took the characters, and you'll see it everywhere in this film once you know this and go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
They purposefully designed the characters to be asymmetrical. So, like, they don't look the same on both sides, basically. There's something a little off.
Yeah.
And it was a creative decision because they wanted something about the film to feel off. It's like, if no two sides match... people might not connect those dots, but they're watching this film thinking like something's kind of uncomfortable about this.
I never know. I'm going to tell you, I didn't know that, and the film kind of seems like there's something off, just the way that it's presented and the way that the story is told. But now I'm really going to have to pay attention to that.
Do you think
that's neat?
Do you think that this feels like one of those Tim Burton movies? Because I saw a lot of people, like, there's a thing, like, a lot of people think, like, oh, this is Tim Burton.
Yeah.
But no, it's not.
No, that doesn't seem like I think of Tim Burton, it's like Corpse Bride. That doesn't,
Nightmare Before Christmas.
First of all, there's too much damn color.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah. Listen, I'm just curious, because we're talking about the style and everything feeling a little bit off, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of his movies, and part of me just wonders if that's the parallel that we're drawing here on Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Tim Burton is the face of that, but I don't think I would not think he did Monster House. But I have to say, Tim Burton did not direct Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote it, produced it, or
he produced it, but a lot of people think because it says Tim Burton that he did that one along with like Frankenweenie's another one, Corpse Bride.
Yeah.
But that's a misconception. He did not direct that one, which a lot of people will tell you that's Tim Burton's most famous movie or most famous animated movie, and I'm like, but he didn't direct it.
Yeah, yeah. It's anyway. I forget. I don't remember what the credit actually is. I'll have to look it up.
Well, I know that it's there because of the fame of Batman.
That's
when they put his name up
there,
it meant something. But it was what's the guy that did? Is it Henry Zelnick? That's who actually directed, who ended up doing a lot of stop motion stuff. He's kind of like the guy that did it.
This is why you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, but no,
to learn
Monster
things.
House, I would not mistake that as a Tim Burton one. But I get them kind of trying to connect those dots, but I feel like it.
I can't remember the title of the Reddit thread that I found, but it was something like Tim Burton movies, or what movies feel like they should be Tim Burton movies but aren't.
Oh, and Monster House was
Monster
one of them?
House, and then there were people chiming in the comments like, I thought this was a Tim Burton movie. And,
Okay.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's like an interesting thing that popped up with this film that I had never really thought that, but then when they said, yeah, something about it feels off, like the creepy overtones, I'm like, I can kind of see how.
I think that's it. I think I can kind of see where they're trying to, like I said, they're trying to have that show the relation as far as maybe the story itself. But I guess to me, like, I can't not think of just the Tim Burton, even from Tim Burton's look and visual style to characters' names. It would never just never popped into my head.
From a technical standpoint, this was a pretty good achievement from this crew to get this movie made. I don't feel like there was a lot of this kind of stuff going on back in 2006. John Heder actually said that they would give the cast head massages and shampoo and wash their hair at the end of the day because it took so much glue for all those little motion capture bulbs and stuff to get on the suit that they would just be like sticky at the end of the day.
Oh man, okay.
There were no sets. They recorded this in the black box theater, and the props that the actors had to use were basically wire props because they had to the motion capture cameras like had to be able to see through the object.
Oh,
so they couldn't.
Wow. This is very technical, which I don't think a lot of people. You think to me, it's like you picture like they're just standing in a booth and then the computers will take care of the rest.
But they're actually out there acting, and they show like the two cops in the car, but the car is just like a frame, a wire frame. And I just like I think about like how hard it would be to perform in that situation where you've got these like skin tight suits on. You're covered in glue from all these motion capture knobs. And then the props that you can use are just wire frames of the objects that you're supposed to be acting with. And by the way, everywhere you look is just a big black curtain.
Yeah.
You're just in a big box, basically.
If you're Steve Buscemi, you're game.
If you're Steve Buscemi, you're looking at that and you're like, bring it the fuck on.
That's right.
Let's go. I'm Steve Buscemi.
This was before Boardwalk Empire.
Before Boardwalk Empire, yeah. But after Big Fish, which Tim Burton movie.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Full circle here.
And he was already Crazy Eyes. Don't forget.
Yeah. That's a movie I want to go back and talk about. We do this all the time on this show. Is like, oh, we should do an episode on that in the middle of us talking about something else. But Big Fish is a good movie.
You know, I have it on 4K.
Really? I didn't even know they made it on 4K. Yeah, that's one I've been looking for in the bins whenever I go out.
That's one of the best Burton movies.
Is it the best?
I don't know. I have a soft spot for Batman.
Yeah, and
there's Edward Scissorhands, which I actually
like Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah. Basically 80s and the early 90s.
Anything he made after, what did we conclude at one point? Dark Shadows was the last decent movie he made?
Yeah, and a lot of people hate that one.
I like Dark Shadows.
But yeah, I didn't mind Big Eyes. You remember that one? With Christoph Waltz and Amy Adams?
I never saw it.
The artist.
I never saw it.
But yeah, I mean, it kind of went down. He did that Miss Peregrine's Children, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was shit.
Yeah.
And then...
You hate to see it.
Yeah, I do. Anyway,
Monster House.
Yeah.
No sets. I mean, what can you imagine acting in that scenario?
I think that is just pure talent and imagination, because if I was an actor and got on that set and that's what it was, I'd be bummed.
Well, thankfully, Kevin James just had to be Kevin James.
Well, yeah, Kevin James, I guess. I just imagine him in there, but really he's just playing a cop.
Yeah.
He's Paul Blart.
Which I was about to say, yeah, he's Paul Blart. Was Paul Blart out at the time?
It was out after.
Was it after?
2006?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right?
People should have known.
That was like a 20
I thought it was 2005 for some reason.
Really?
People should have known. Well, when I say people, I say me.
I don't think
I should have known who Kevin James was in this movie.
I don't think so.
Paul Blart Mall Cop came out in 2009. Oh,
yeah, I was
shit.
gonna say I thought it was towards then because that's when he was like on a roll with that one, and I don't know, he did some stupid zoo movie, Zookeeper, I think is what it's literally called.
The Zookeeper, or was that like when Here Comes the Boom?
Yeah, a
was
lot
out,
of those.
all those, yeah.
As you can tell, Paul Blart's the only thing that did halfway decent, and then he was in Sandler movies.
Yeah, it was another movie review rewind episode. Paul Blart Mall Cop. How about that?
Oh. That's on down
You didn't
list.
like Paul Blart Mall Cop?
It was fun then, but I guarantee you I'll watch it now and I'll talk about how stupid it is.
We're due for a bad movie on this podcast. We've been talking about that.
But yeah, it's a double-edged sword. There's stuff like that, and then there's like Master and Commander. Where I'm like, oh, you know what? It actually was a better film than I remember.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. My taste hadn't matured.
Continuing with the technical aspects of Monster House,
I would have been bummed unless I was Kevin James.
The software that they used to construct Monster House and edit it and all that, and it's if you're not familiar with the filmmaking process, it's like you get the bones of the structures on screen and then you just add layers to it, and every layer adds new detail to it. They had a feature in this software to make scenes feel like they were shot with a handheld camera. Like it was actually a dude holding a camera recording the film, because they wanted the film to feel human at its core. And I come back to
sense.
Like the details that they put in this movie.
There's a lot of care that went into this.
Yeah. The
and I'm glad that it actually shows.
The sound. They went to the level of detail that they actually created the house from this movie and then tore it down and recorded all the sound.
Oh, really? Like they did like
so
a real house.
They built the house.
So the one thing they did build was the house to tear it down.
To tear it down and create the sound. And I don't know, man, like I'm watching all this stuff, the special features from the DVD, and the filmmakers talking about this, the cast talking about it. I would be interested to see like where the kids are now. I don't know if any of them are still acting or not, but what the experience was like for them. I mean, the special features were shot way after the movie had wrapped filming and all that, of course. And these kids were like still best friends from it. And it's just cool to see like that aspect of it, and seeing things like Steve Buscemi saying like, I wanted to be a part of this, to do something like this that I hadn't done before.
Was Kathleen Turner on special features?
She was.
Oh, was she? I feel like she wouldn't have done them.
Well, maybe she wasn't, now that I think about it, because I'm drawing a blank. They did a feature on, I want to say they did a feature just on her and getting her and like the care they wanted to take, because the character that she plays is not exactly a flattering character.
Yeah.
And they talked about how it was kind of delicate to approach that, but she was super cool about it. And
good.
I just can't remember.
She has such
anything
a
about it
because
I didn't write any notes down from it, because I was so hung up on the John Heder getting his hair shampooed every day.
It does make you even love the movie more. Like it really, like it's one of just, you sit in the theater, you watch it, you enjoy it, and then it's become a tradition of mine. I mean, since it came out. I mean, what'd you say? Almost 20 years ago.
It's 18 years this spooky season.
Everything, and I like scary movies, especially around this time. But when it comes to animated movies, it's Monster House and it's Paranorman. Those are the elite.
Would you put this in your spooky season Mount Rushmore? Forget just animated, but spooky season as a whole.
I think so. I think it would be.
Yeah.
If not, it would be right up next to it. Live action, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think it still very much is relevant. I think it's pretty timeless, just as far as just capturing that period of your life. But like I said, that atmosphere, that vibe, I love every October. Every October.
I'm with you, man. Let's play the budget game. What do you think it costs to make Monster House? We know
Back then,
the tender love and care that they
Yeah.
put into this film,
let's
but
say
brass tacks, what do you think the budget was?
$43 million.
75 million.
Dang, I almost went at least up to 60, but I thought, no, wait.
Now it's run at the box office.
That's tricky because I don't really remember. I'll be honest, I don't remember how popular the movie actually was.
Did it make its money back?
I think it did make its money back.
Okay. What do you want to throw a number out there?
I want to say international and everything. I want to say that it may. I'd like to think maybe it crossed 100 million.
It is $100 million movie.
Is
It made 141.9 million
Wow.
during its
All
run
right.
at the box
Good.
office. So that's a hit.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a hit.
hit.
And I saw that it was nominated for an Oscar, which that helps.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, it was nominated for Best Animated Feature.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I wasn't thinking about that, but
But yeah, which honestly, I didn't realize that, but I'm really glad that it got noticed because I think it was only 3 to 5 movies.
that's what I'm trying to effort now to see.
It was 2007's Academy Awards.
Yeah, Best Animated Feature. It was also nominated at the Golden Globes that year as well.
Good.
Academy Awards 2007.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. It would have been the Academy Awards from 2007.
Oh, I see what one.
What was it?
Let me make sure. Oh, hang on. I'm showing Happy Feet.
Let's see. I've got the list up
let me-
too. Yeah, Happy Feet.
Was it?
Damn, Happy Feet beat out Monster House and Cars. Happy Feet is the third movie I would rank out of those three.
Yeah.
I would go Monster House, then Cars, then Happy Feet.
Yeah. I was going to say, wow.
Fucking Oscars, man.
Ain't that the truth? But George Miller, huh? Mad Max
Hey,
director.
hey, there we go.
But
let's-
also, 3 movies and Monster House was one of them. That's awesome.
That's pretty
I
wild.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game. What do you think critics gave Monster House?
78.
75.
Oh,
So
okay.
pretty
All
close
right.
there. What do you think the audience gave Monster House?
82.
Audience
Gotcha.
did not like it as much as the critics. 64%.
Oh, okay.
100,000 plus ratings.
Jeez.
That I am surprised by that.
You know why? Because those bastards wanted to see Happy Feet.
You know what?
That's why.
It might be.
If it ain't Pixar or Dancing Penguins, then the hell with it.
This review says gave it half of a star.
What?
Half of a star and said, "Ain't that a bad movie?" And that's the review. I just took a look at Monster House out of curiosity for the most part, and when it was over, I did not think much of it. The movie is very forgettable and not well animated. The movie tries to take the stereotype of the grumpy old man who lives alone and tells all those pesky kids to stay off his lawn and do something unique with it. I was not all that impressed. The storyline is way too predictable. The main character knows there's something very strange about the old house across from his home. Nobody believes what he says about the house until finally, at the last possible second, everybody sees he was telling the truth all along. Does that sound familiar?
God.
There are too many flaws in Monster House for me to recommend it. There are better animated movies out there. The story was good, but the animation is ... very bad. It doesn't matter how good the story is when what you are looking at is so ugly the entire time.
Maybe
Weak
because it's
film.
a different approach.
I did like it when I was younger, but it feels sort of like a Coraline ripoff.
That can't be. Coraline was after Monster House. So Coraline is a ripoff of Monster House then.
Listen, I support everyone's right to vote,
No.
but they should
Do
not.
you though?
They should not. Take that away. Rotten Tomatoes, take that away
you
from
should
the audiences.
honestly, you shouldn't have audience rate. It doesn't matter. That's what social media is for.
Yeah.
Don't let people bomb that one.
I think it was a lot of people that, you're right, I think they probably expect Happy Feet. They're probably expecting like the
it's
clean,
a more
clear.
mature
like
children's
joyful
movie.
animation,
Yes.
like designed for kids.
Yes.
I mean, Monster
I feel
House
like it's
is
the same people that would bitch. That I bet you people bitch about Coraline because Coraline is not. It's in that realm of it's a darker kids movie,
yeah.
and that's okay. And the animation fits it, and that's I think what makes Monster House honestly a standout. I haven't thought about Happy Feet probably since I saw it.
Yeah, I don't care to ever think about Happy Feet. Fuck Happy Feet.
And I think of Cars only because the other two movies aren't that good.
Yeah,
And I'm thankful for the original.
I do think the original is an animated classic.
But then Monster House is something that this grown-ass man at almost 40 years old watches every October.
I'm with you. What we're trying to say is if you don't like Monster House, you don't know movies.
That's right.
You don't know movies.
Hell yeah.
Well, Brandon, that's all I've got for this episode, this spooky season episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast. Thank you for joining me here. Let our listeners know where they can find you on social media.
On Twitter at Sir Brandon V and at Sir Brandon on Letterboxd if you got it.
We are, and I'm at Stoney Keeley, at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. Thank you guys for your continued support of Sobros Network. We will see you next month with another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast.